c'est vrai. Je suis un ananas.
Now, in the towers of Edmonton...
I'm not a Tory, I don't speak on both sides.
I do not use crack cocaine, nor am I an addict of crack cocaine.
All right, welcome to Fat, French, and Fabulous. I'm Janelle.
And I'm Jessica.
And that's the most professional intro we'll ever do.
The most professional. I didn't even mention breasts.
Well, now, fuck.
Oh, that's
Jessica,
over.
we're 16 seconds into this. We can't... This is already a disaster. All right, so speaking of disaster, this week, I don't even know how often we're going to post this. Week? By week? By month? I don't know. This time, we're talking about petty feuds of the Maritimes.
Hollywood, baby.
Hollywood. All right, we're talking about the weird shit people do to each other in Canada's armpit. I'm actually from New Brunswick. Again, I mean, if there's an armpit of Canada, that's...
I will not be as aggressively insulting the Maritimes as Janelle will be, because I'm Albertan, and that's punching down.
That's punching down. So the Maritimes actually specializes in long-standing and ridiculous feuds. And, like, these aren't petty things. Like, people die in 40-year-old family feuds. And so,
it's like the Hatfields and the McCoys, but with more fish.
I actually found the Maritime Hatfields and McCoys, and they're going to be a future episode. But the three I'm going to look at today are the lobster murders of Cape Breton. I don't have a punchy name for this one, but
Did they murder lobster? I think that's just, like, business as usual.
That's just how Nova Scotians feed their families. The second one is in PEI, the Voiseau's Revenge. I'm actually surprised that there wasn't more, like, heinous murder in PEI. There's something wrong with that entire island. And then the last one is in my own home province of New Brunswick, and that is the infamous Gallants versus the Murrays and their giant pile of poo. So we're gonna
Is this a literal pile of poo?
This is a literal pile of poo, but we're gonna save that one to the end.
Best for last.
Best for last. We're gonna start with lobster murders. Right, so the lobster industry is actually super important to the Maritimes. I think, like, if there's anything that most people know about the Maritimes, I think it's lobster and blue nose.
Yeah, the blue nose being the smuggling ship.
Actually, that's not... I think most people just recognize it from, like, that one time they used a dime.
Yeah, like, the last time you used a dime, you looked in there like, oh yeah, it's a cute little ship. It's a rum runner.
It is a rum runner. They used to smuggle rum. Al Capone used the blue nose, if
even
I'm not
our
mistaken.
criminals are adorable.
Are they? People died, Jessica.
I bet they died cute.
Okay, this is an adorable story, but people did die. So lobster's actually Canada's top export species. We export around 2 billion worth of these, like, sea scorpions every year. And, like, 76,000 people living in the Maritimes make their living in the lobster industry in this country, many of whom are related to me.
All of them.
Yes.
Repeatedly.
They all have the surname Como. It's an incestuous industry. Lobsters have an incredibly short season. Like, lobsters are actually a biologically immortal species.
They are.
You can't age them to death. But they take an incredibly long time to grow big enough to eat them satisfyingly.
Yeah, like if you just left a lobster alone, it would live forever.
Yeah. They also occasionally just drop their own limbs off, which is a fun fact.
They're just like, don't need this anymore.
Yeah, it just grows back. They can grow back limbs on command.
Like, if lobsters were, like, rich oligarchs, they would just, like, tip, like, waitresses with their limbs.
Your brain is fascinating and terrifying. So lobsters actually have a very short season. In Cape Breton, you only get about 2 months to fish lobster, and since that's what's keeping most people in Nova Scotia off the brink of starvation, it's a highly competitive... It's high-stakes shit.
Yeah.
You've got 2 months to get all of the lobster.
All of it.
All the lobster, or you're gonna die. So this story happens with the crew of a 3-person lobster ship called the Twin Maggies. When you name a boat, you have to stick with the name, but it doesn't have to be a good one.
I mean, it's not the worst name.
It's not the worst
but
name.
It's not a good name.
It's not a good name. It's bad luck to rename a boat, so I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and say...
The Gemini Margaret.
That's awful. Don't name boats. This is out for you. But the crew of the Twin Maggies had a long-standing problem with the man named James Boudreau. So for 25 years, they suspected this asshole of cutting their lobster traps. Every single year, they would find 20 to 25 traps cut, which doesn't sound like a lot of traps, but that's about $6,000 in damages alone, plus all of the delicious lobster that is no longer caught in your traps.
There is a massive, like sea scorpion opportunity cost here.
They're just disgusting.
You are losing money off of those arachnids of those spider mermaids.
Spider mermaid.
They're spider mermaids.
I just want to watch one of your nightmares. that's a horrifying
They
description.
mostly involve spiders in the sea.
Oh my god, who hurt you?
Spiders did.
Spiders. You grew up in Grand Prairie. You've never seen an ocean.
I mean, I've seen spiders. And I think the only thing scarier than a spider is a spider that can swim.
The only thing scarier than a spider that can swim is growing up in Grand Prairie.
True.
So James Boudreaux, they could never actually prove that James Boudreaux was the one cutting their traps. So, I mean, this is all a completely unfounded allegation. But the only year that they didn't get their traps cut was the year when James was in prison. And again, this went on for 25 years.
Like, this went on for almost as long as I've been alive.
That's true. It went on for longer than I've been alive. 'Cause I'm an infant. So on June 1st, 2013, the crew of the Twin Maggies was out on the sea when they happened to spot James in a speedboat fucking around with some lobster traps. And they decided that was enough. They had had enough of James. No, so...
Y'all better watch yourself, James.
What was that?
That was my sass
People
voice.
do not speak like that in the Maritimes. It's just basically nautical terms mashed together into an unintelligible accent.
I don't know how people from the Maritimes talk.
We talk dumb.
I assume it's like the Swedish Chef.
No, it's we're recording this in Edmonton and you do meet a lot of Maritimers in
I
Edmonton,
do.
actually. There's no excuse.
And there's more of them in Grand Prairie, actually. We have newfies out the ass. Where are you two, boy?
Sounds like a sex position. Newfies out the ass.
You can always spot a newfie because they always have, like, a picture of, like, the coastline of Newfoundland, like the shape of Newfoundland, on the back of their pickup, the rear window.
The shape of the rock
They
brings
don't
want
to be here.
No, they don't. We don't want to be here. We all hate you.
And we understand.
So these guys, they found this guy messing around with their lobster traps, and after 25 years of this, they wanted it. They were done. So the boat's captain, Dwayne Simpson, turns to crew member Joseph James Landry and orders him to load a shotgun and open fire at Boudreaux on the high seas. Dwayne. I thought that everyone in this story was just going to be named some version of James. It's the Maritimes. I would have expected, like, Jean something. This is Nova Scotia. I would expect just a whole lot of Gordon.
Everyone in Nova Scotia is named Gordon.
Everybody's named Gordon. So Dwayne orders Joseph to open fire on Boudreaux. And he does, from a boat. I've never fired a shotgun, but, like, he's taking the kickback of 4 shotgun shells on a boat that's not moored to anything. So he fires 4 shots at the guy, hitting him once in the leg. And under normal circumstances, if I got shot in the leg doing pretty much anything, that would be all the incentive I needed to stop doing that thing.
I mean, just the idea of being shot in the leg would be enough to make me stop.
No, but they're not done. So they decided that they would then ram Boudreaux's speedboat repeatedly with their fishing boat until he fell overboard. They then snag him on a fishhook and drag him through the Atlantic until he dies. At which point, they fasten his body to an anchor and just let it go in, where are they? They are in Petit Gras, Nova Scotia, just off the coast of, Cape Breton Island. And his body's actually never been found.
Dude.
Yeah, this is a dark story. We opened dark.
Dude.
Yeah, no, this is dark.
How long would it take you to die?
I don't know, like, you're bleeding out and
You're bleeding out, but I think the hypothermia would get you first.
I don't know, or would you drown?
That ocean is never warm.
Or would you just die of shame?
Shame or shock?
This is 25 years in the making and they murder him. This is called the Lobster Murders. This was an infamous case, when it happened.
Dude!
Yeah, so eventually Landry and Simpson were found guilty. They were initially tried for second-degree murder because I mean, it was.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when you see...
mean,
I know property damage is annoying, but just no hesitation, they shot the guy. So they were eventually found guilty of manslaughter. I believe one of them was sentenced to 14 years in prison, and I think the other one got a similar sentence. And the third crew member, Craig Landry, who was related to Joseph Landry, because everybody's fucking related out there, he actually ended up getting 28 days time served and 2 years of probation for, I guess, going along with the plot to ram him to death.
I mean, like, so he didn't shoot him and he didn't hook him in the mouth, but he didn't
I don't know if they hooked him in the mouth. They just sort of, it wasn't really specific because, I mean, CBC can only be so dark. All this research, for the most part, comes off the CBC.
Wow.
I'm a proud Canadian.
Wow.
Yeah. So I guess the message to this story is that if you want to kill a guy, you just need to be on a boat with 2 other people that do it.
Yeah, basically.
You'll get off with time served.
Just be able to point to, like, someone else.
That's the moral of this one.
The moral of this, like, wow. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not exactly a Coke deal gone wrong.
No, it's not. This is lobster. This is lobster. So the second story of a petty maritime feud is actually equally dark. So this story is from Montague, PEI, which I can only assume is like an intersection. I don't think this is a big city.
I do not think they have a light that works. Like, they might have a traffic light, but it definitely doesn't
I don't think
work.
this is a big town. And this crime, actually, at the time, was described by the judge as one of the worst crimes in the history of PEI.
I mean, it is PEI.
It's PEI. Like, worse things have happened in Edmonton this week, but PEI is a small place.
PEI is an island / Anne of Green Gables museum.
The whole island.
The whole island.
It's just a giant... It's just where foreign Asian tourists come to see Anne of Green Gables.
That's what it is. Like, I think the worst crime you can ever commit in PEI is moving your children to PEI.
My favorite fact about PEI is that the Confederate bridge that you take to get there, it's free to get onto PEI, but it costs $40 to leave. It's true, you can strand... It is a trap. You go to PEI without cash, and then you just sort of have to stay and build a life there. Because you can't get off the island.
That's how they bring new genes into the pool.
It's the only thing keeping their children from being born with 3 eyes. Like, this is...
like, it's either this or flipper babies. My favorite fact about the Constitution Bridge is that it's actually...
Confederate Bridge.
The Confederate Bridge, not the Constitution
Not the
Bridge.
Constitution
The Confederate
Bridge.
Bridge. That's American. We're Canadian. My favorite fact about the I nearly did it again.
You're doing it again.
The Confederate Bridge, is that it's actually the 5th Amendment of the Canadian Constitution.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Just that it will exist?
Yeah.
Oh!
Like, bridge for PEI.
They have a constitutional right to not be stranded.
They have a constitutional right to be able to escape. So if you're ever pleading the 5th in Canada... you're just asking for PEI to have a bridge.
That's great. So next time...
You're demanding your right to leave PEI.
If you get arrested, I demand to leave PEI. Let me go. So on November 19th, 1970, a man named Herb... I'm gonna mess this up. Nobody's name in this story is pronounceable. McGuigan is the closest I can figure. Herb McGuigan was driving drunk, and he struck a family van owned by the Vuozo family, whose name I've also just butchered. Vuozo? This is why we have a polyglot on the show. So
it's Italian.
I guess this is a family that clearly got trapped there. So 9-year-old...
They just didn't have that $40.
Bridge didn't exist in 1970. Get it together. So 9-year-old Kathy Vuozo was actually killed in this crash. And Herb was found unconscious in his vehicle surrounded by beer cans. So not a lot of forensics went into this.
Not a good alibi.
Not a good alibi. So Kathy's father and her younger brother, Alfred Guy, were both in the collision and they both survived. And in the aftermath, Herb was sentenced to 9 months in prison for impaired driving. And for a long time, that was pretty much it. This is 1970.
That's a very short sentence.
It's a very short sentence.
You could give birth in that time.
Why is that where your mind goes?
9 months. I think that's just, like, everybody goes to. Like, that's the one 9 months thing that everyone thinks
Like,
about.
I'm gonna have a baby, I may as well just go to prison for 9 months. Just
Isn't that what people do in prison? Pump out babies?
This is why. What? You know, prisons are unisex. We can't let you commit anything. You're not gonna last in prison.
I'm pretty sure that's the punishment for getting pregnant, is you go to prison.
Oh my god. I don't know. You just show up on your first day of prison like, alright, where do I go to get inseminated? I've heard that's what they do here. Your grasp of the justice system is absolutely terrifying. But yeah, so he gets a 9-month sentence in 1970, or 1971 when this case goes to trial, and for a long time, that's kind of the end of this story. Allegedly, Kathy's mother, the victim's mother, ended up hitting one of the McGuigan's sons in the 1990s, but that was pretty much as vicious as the feud got.
Hit?
Hit.
Like, that's an ambiguous, like, slapped?
I think,
punch?
the story wasn't clear, but I think slapped.
Okay.
I think she slapped the kid, and I mean,
pretty mild.
It's a small island. Like you're gonna slap somebody else's shitty kid at some point.
I mean, obviously.
Yeah. So then in 2014, which is a full 44 years after the accident, Alfred Guy Wotzo, like the kid who survived the accident, decides that he's going to get revenge for his sister's death.
That took a while.
Yeah, 44 years after this. So
was he bored? Did he like binge did he binge all his favorite shows and was just like, welp,
yeah,
vengeance time?
Yeah, I mean, like I've pretty much run out of Nancy Drew novels. I don't know what to do with my life now. Like,
there's only so many times a man can read Ella Montgomery.
I have read Anne of Green Gables for 44 solid years, and I've lost my mind. So it's also worth noting that Herb McGuigan, like the drunk driver, is dead by this point. Like, he is long dead at this point.
I mean, like, how long can you live as a Prince Edward Island drunk?
Forever. They're all drunk. That was unkind.
Rude.
Rude.
Uncalled for.
Uncalled for. So
harsh.
So the whole point of a family feud, though, is that, like, these stop making sense real quick. So Herb's dead, and he decides that the next best thing is just to get a handgun and go park his car outside the McGuigan home and just shoot the first people he sees. So he spots two men.
Good plan.
Good plan.
Keep it simple.
This is a stable and well-adjusted individual. So he sees two men through the window of the family home, and he shoots them. And so Brent McGuigan, 68, this is Herb's son, and...
Is it the same son that the mother hit?
I don't know. The story did not specify. Maybe he...
These are important details. We need to know these things.
CBC only has so much money.
Get it together, CBC.
And so Brent McGuigan, 68, and Brent's son, Brendan, this is now Herb's grandson, 39 years old, so he wasn't even alive at the time of the accident, are both killed. And Brent's wife hears the gunshots and comes out to find her husband and son dying on the floor. This is a dark story, too.
Dark.
I pick dark stories.
Dark.
And so Wotzo yells at her, like, I did this for what your father did to my baby sister, and he sort of takes off into the night.
I killed your son because, like, killing
young
people...
I killed your... Like, at this point, he's dead. He's just sort of yelling at the dude's daughter-in-law.
Yeah, like, I killed your husband because, like, it's wrong to kill young people who
44 years ago.
Uninvolved.
Yeah. So, there's a police manhunt ensues, and somehow Wotzo escapes, hides his gun, ammo, and gloves near a pond, and then at midnight, he just sort of turns the fuck up at his brother's house, and is like, I did it, I got them, and then takes back off into the night. Yeah, so his brother immediately turns him in, because
of course.
This was a one-man family feud. It was a one-man family feud, because, this is not the end of it. So, Wotzo went to court and got a life sentence for the murders, as he should.
Because, like, he yelled at this lady.
He shot two people.
Yeah,
I'm actually less concerned about the yelling than I am about,
he didn't know how to keep it to himself. Like, this is just badly managed.
I'm more concerned about the fact that he, like, execution-style murdered two people than the fact that he...
Like, I mean, like, of course that is bad. I think that's bad.
But he had poor manners.
But poor manners as well. Mostly what I mean is just, like, this is, like, PEI is a small place, and these families know each other.
So if you're gonna commit murder, move to an anonymous large city and kill a stranger.
Yes!
No! So in the courtroom for this case during sentencing, Votso suddenly stands up and starts cursing out the McGuigans. And then one of the McGuigans stands up and he starts screaming that there will not be another Votso left alive in Montague when I'm done. And he turns to the guy...
That is Shakespearean.
Oh, it's Shakespearean. And he turns to the guy and says, I'm not gonna go as easy on your mother as you went on the victims. And as they're hauling this screaming McGuigan out of the courtroom, Votso yelled back, like, we'll see about that. So the RCMP had to formally scold both families.
Yes. A formal scolding from the Canadian
formal
police.
Scolding from the RCMP to tell them, like, we don't want, like, you've had a 45-year blood feud. Like, we cannot handle any more murder.
Yeah. Like, is that the harshest the Canadian justice system is capable of?
I don't, like, what else do you do? Just, like, don't you do it. I mean, this sentencing...
No.
The sentencing was almost 2 years ago, and so far, there have been no more murders.
Oh, good.
So, I don't know. I think this one... I don't know that this story had a happy ending.
I mean... Poor Brent.
Poor
Brendan.
And Brendan.
Brendan had nothing to do with this.
No.
Leave poor Brendan out of it.
Leave Brendan alone.
Leave Brendan alone!
Oh, they're dead, and it's actually really sad.
Yes.
Yeah. So the last story actually has no death.
No death?
No death, but it has thousands and thousands of kilograms of poo.
I'm into this.
Oh, alright. This is why you don't come over that often.
I mean, also you never invite me.
We'll work out our personal problems after the recording.
You with a 40-year blood feud.
I will start a 40-year blood feud. Peugeot.
I'm going to cut all of her lobsters.
Well, I'm gonna put poo in your life, all over your life.
I mean,
I might also kill your family.
Harsh, but I accept it.
All right. So this feud the last feud takes place in New Brunswick, and this is a feud between the Gallant family and the Murray families, which are two of the most maritimer surnames to ever exist.
Gallant?
Gallant.
That almost sounds like a type of boot.
It's a galosh. You're thinking of galosh.
I like galoshes.
Gallant is just gallant pronounced funny. Because it's a maritime thing. If you meet
a
maritimers...
fellow so gallant.
That was an esoteric reference. So this takes place in a town called Indian Mountain, New Brunswick, which is right outside my hometown of Moncton, New Brunswick. And Indian Mountain is genuinely an intersection.
So we have like first-hand reports. This is an intersection.
It's basically an intersection with farmland, or there's cows and a road.
Cows and a road?
There's cows and a road.
That is fancy.
That's about all we've got here. Their Wikipedia article, I shit you not, contains nothing but a list of 5 local attractions, which are the school, the general store, the golf club, the meeting house, and something called the Lutz Mountain Church of the Nazarene, which if you click the link takes you to the website of a Calgary-based car insurance company. This is Indian Mountain.
Weird!
This is Indian Mountain, New Brunswick. This is what they've got to offer. A store and either Jesus or car insurance.
I mean...
Possibly both. Jesus, take the wheel. So in 2001, David and Joan Gallant purchased a piece of land from their friends Lee and Shirley Murray. So they purchased a small piece of the land. So the Gallant's land was actually bordered by the Murray's land on 3 sides. So they're thoroughly boxed in. It was a strange way to divide land.
Yeah, they're basically the tongue of these people's property.
Yeah, they're the toenail of the Murray estate.
Yes.
They're just a scrap of land. And this was in 2001. So the court case that came of this doesn't actually explain what happened between the two families, but sometime between 2001 and 2014, the Murrays completely lost their shit.
Literally?
I mean, they knew where the shit was. It's just the location of the shit that was the problem. So in November of 2013, at 4 o'clock in the morning, the Gallants wake up to the sound of an industrial loader dumping thousands of pounds of literal horse shit at the end of the Gallants' property. So right on the border between the two properties, they built a mountain of fresh, raw, untreated, and wet horse manure.
Subtle!
Subtle! That is
a subtle way of telling your neighbors to keep their lawn tidy.
I have hated neighbors, but I have never hated neighbors quite that much.
I wouldn't do that to somebody who accidentally murdered my daughter.
No, normally you just sort of blow some dandelion seeds onto their lawn and call it a day.
Yeah.
You let their dog pee on the bushes, you're good.
Usually when they're not home.
Yeah, normally...
But sometimes when they are, just to let them know that you detest them.
You just sort of pull back your curtain and watch their house disapprovingly. But, no. So they decided to build Shit Mountain on the edge of the property. So David Gallant, understandably upset that there is an industrial loader piling horse shit on the edge of his property.
I don't understand why.
Yeah, so he calls the Murrays to complain about this, and they hang up on him. And this continues, this goes on for days, them piling up horse manure on the edge of the property. And eventually, the pile of shit is big enough to be seen from fucking space. So in the court case, the judge actually refers to a satellite photograph where the mountain of shit is clearly visible at the edge of the property. This is not a subtle maneuver. You can find it. If you go online and look up this case, you can actually see satellite images that clearly show the giant mountain of horse shit. And they left it there for a year. It sat there for a year.
What just society would not put a restraining order on these people?
I mean, they live what can you... I just want to know what you have to do to make somebody this mad.
I don't know.
I
don't know anything that would make me this angry.
Right?
How do you get angry enough to, one, rent a loader? Rent heavy machinery.
Yeah, and then buy
industrial quantities of horse feces.
Untreated, can you even buy raw, untreated manure? I think you buy it and it's already dry.
Yeah, I think you just have to get a horse and then just feed it obscene amounts of, prunes.
There's just a concentrated force-feeding horse factory somewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, and they live right beside these people.
Yeah, there's no escaping this.
They probably can smell this from their house.
Oh, they definitely can. So the manure was apparently unbearable. The stench was unbearable.
Kind of smell you can taste.
Oh, that made it worse. It's worse now. And apparently this was particularly, unbearable to live around when it was windy or raining, which is, both of the weather that we have in New Brunswick.
It's both seasons.
That's both of them. We have
that's
snow.
All the weather.
We have rain, windy, or we have, ice storm. That's...
And ice storm is probably the only time where this is bearable.
The problem is when you get 6 feet of snow, is that 6 feet of snow eventually melts.
Yes.
And then
it's worse.
And then we're back to horse manure. So in March 2014, the pile of shit is still very much there at this point. The Murrays then get a snowblower, and they go around the edge of the Gallants' property to blow rocks and snow onto the Gallants' property. They're not done fucking with... They're not even close to done fucking with these people.
How do you get this? They already have a mountainous pile of horse dew.
I don't know,
visible from space. How have you not already excised your demons?
You've reached cathartic release by this point, normally. Normally this is where shame should be setting in. Deep inner shame at your actions.
I'm pretty sure the only reason why they didn't, buy, a gigantic paper bag for the horse poo and set it on fire is because that would have, blown their house off the face of the mountain.
We're not even close to done. No. It gets so much worse.
How did what? Why?
So 2 months later, again, shit pile is still extremely present. The Gallants allege that the Murrays intentionally destroyed a section of fence between the two properties and loosed 50 cows on their property. They released 50 cows onto the Gallants' lawn, which absolutely destroyed the lawn and damaged trees on the property.
So we can have, more manure now.
Yeah, no, definitely. They weaponized cows. Again, I don't know what the Gallants did, but I kind of want to know.
This seems kind of one-sided. I mean...
This is just sort of a vendetta. I have no idea. Maybe they spoke English and the Murrays spoke French. I don't know. But in September 2014, again, shit's still there. The Murrays decided to place an enormous hay bale.
And I mean, you can't even, like, move.
No, you can't. You're in New Brunswick. Your house is worth 6 jelly beans and a fart. There's no way that you can afford to up and move.
And I mean, like, even if you could find somebody with 6 jelly beans and a fart.
They don't want to live in Indian Mountain.
They do not want to live in Indian Mountain, and they definitely don't want to live to Horse Shit Mountain Indian Mountain.
Yeah, can you imagine showing the house? It's like, yeah, just...
What's that smell? Like, you are purely selling to, like, the kind of, like, the market of people who have had, like, mild head injuries as children and can no longer smell.
I don't think it's even the smell. It's more like, what's blocking out the sun? Like, oh, shit. So we're still not done here. September. Shit's still there. The Murrays now place an enormous hay bale right up against the edge of the Gallant's property, as close to the house as possible, to make sure that cows would then piss and shit as close to the Gallant house as they could. This was intentionally to attract cows to the point closest to the house, to make life absolutely unbearable.
Because you know what really brings a certain je ne sais quoi to the smell of moldering year-old horse shit?
Cow piss.
It really just,
So
just
we're...
a soupçon of acrid
We got the French in this episode.
ammonia.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, so we're actually still not done. So, around the time of this hay bale incident, David Gallant has finally had enough of living in the shadow of Shit Mountain.
David Gallant is a patient man.
David Gallant is a saint. Saint Gallant. I don't know what he's going to be the patron saint of, but it's not going to be good.
Patron saint of unbearable neighbors.
This is the man that you're going to pray to when you clog somebody's toilet. When you clog the toilet at somebody else's house, like, oh, please, Saint David, unclog this shitter. This is this man's legacy.
This is the person you pray to when someone does an upper decker.
There's no prayers. Satan has taken you. So, David Gallant finally has enough of this, and he files a formal complaint with the New Brunswick Farm Practices Review Board, which is probably the least intimidating legal body in the country.
I think you don't want to go up against the
New Brunswick Farm Practices Review Board.
The New Brunswick Farm Practices Review Board. They are tough.
They're tough.
They will kneecap you.
So he's like,
you mistreat a chicken, you're done.
You're done. They're gonna find you and they will cut you in both official languages.
Sacre bleu.
Sacre bleu. Oh zut.
Zut alors.
So he appeals to them to make the Murrays
nager dans la piscine.
Eat the fish?
Swim in the pool.
Okay. You know what? Some of us only took the mandatory 2 years of French. And
other ones of us mainlined that.
Yeah.
They enjoyed it. I cackled while my schoolmates cried.
You needed more hugs as a child. So they appeal to this board to make the Murrays move the shit pile. And if they actually win, because of course they fucking win.
I don't know a judge alive who would deny them.
Yeah, so at the end of October...
Judge Judy wouldn't put up with that. She
has no jurisdiction here. You have no power here.
Judge Judy has jurisdiction everywhere, especially in my heart.
So at the end of October, the Murrays finally move the manure, but somehow, in the process of moving the manure, the Murrays start a brush fire, which then causes smoke damage to the Gallant's garage. I don't know how much friction does a pile of wet manure possibly
well, the thing
have?
Is it rots, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has heat, but
no, like when you have like a huge pile of manure, the inside rots faster than the outside, and the gas can't escape.
Compost fire, but like, I mean, surely this is on their property. They're now setting their own property on fire.
Yeah, they're lucky it didn't explode, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the obituary? Like, he passed peacefully at home, screaming and choking on the gases of a noxious horse pile. They should list the cause of death in obituaries. I would read them. So again, like the New Brunswick Farm Practices Review Board, which continues to be the least intimidating legal body ever, then held a hearing for the Murrays and decided that setting cows free on your property, on your neighbor's property, and building a manure pile that can be seen from space are, quote, unacceptable farming practices. And
I agree.
I agree. And the day after this happened,
You can't get anything past the Farm Review Board.
they're a sharp bunch in both official languages. And actually, I wonder if they do. I wonder if New Brunswick has, like, the New Brunswick Farm Practices Review Board, and then, like, the Nouveau Brunswick Board de Farm Practice, because that's French in New Brunswick.
Why?
I don't know. I don't care enough to know. I don't care. But the day after they hand this ruling down, somebody then goes and gouges an enormous scratch into the side of the Gallant's car.
I wonder who it was.
Yeah, this is suspicious because, again, nobody fucking lives in Indian Mountain. There's not a lot of suspects.
And, like, if you saw a car in Indian Mountain, would you even know what it was?
Okay, alright, hang on. I was born like half an hour from where this happened.
I think you'd be in awe of it. Would you ever damage such a magnificent machine?
You know what? This is why we don't like Albertans. This is why we don't befriend your kind. Those eastern bastards will just freeze in the dark. Thank you.
This is why we have a lot of country between us.
This is, yeah. Stay on your side of Manitoba, and we'll stay on ours. It's the no man's land of this conflict.
They're just like, it's just like on either side of the Manitoba border, there's just barbed wire.
Of Manitoba. We'll just box in Manitoba. It's the DMZ of Canada.
I think they have the world's largest Ukrainian Easter egg.
That's us.
No, is it you?
It's 2 hours. You've been to it with me.
Oh yeah, they don't even have the world's largest Ukrainian Easter egg.
Does our time together mean nothing to you?
I just blocked out the Easter egg.
Oh my god. We saw the world's largest Ukrainian Easter egg together and you were like, nah.
But like, I assume that Indian Mountain is like the New Brunswick equivalent of Clive, Alberta. The Wikipedia page for Clive, Alberta, and yes, I know this off of the top of my head. Yes, I do.
Yes, you do.
Under amenities, they have listed, they have a skate park.
Oh, good.
That's it.
Skate park is pretty minimal. I mean, you can just call any surface a skate park.
I mean, so like, basically what this means is they have a patch of concrete that is relatively even.
Yeah, I mean, like, with the right attitude, any surface is a skate park.
Just believe.
Just believe. So finally, in January of 2015, the Gallants finally sue the Murrays to stop their, quote, increasing pattern of aggression, which means, like, basically is legalese for just fucking stop. Yeah. You lunatics.
You mean there's a higher power than the Farm Review Board that you can appeal to?
Yeah, apparently there's courts in New Brunswick.
Wow.
Yeah, so the judge in the case is actually quoted as saying, "When neighbors fight, nothing good results. This case, now before the court, proves this adage." And the Gallants won. The Gallants were afforded $15,000 in damages. It would have been more, but the insurance actually paid for cow-related damages, which makes me want to know what kind of insurance they have.
What is New Brunswick like?
I want to know if I have cow-related damage. Is that like a standard home insurance feature, or do you have to pay extra?
Yeah, like, are cows an act of God in
I was just wondering that. Are cows an act of God? I don't know. I mean, with the right attitude, anything's an act of God.
I mean, you just gotta believe.
Depends on which God you believe in and how mad he is at you. So the Murrays are now forbidden from setting foot on the Gallants' property. They are forbidden by contacting them by any means except writing. They are formally forbidden to snowblow rocks onto the property.
Formally forbidden. Rocks.
You may not snowblow rocks. I don't know if this covers other things. If they sit there and they snowblow 700 kittens onto the property, I have no idea if they're violating the law or not. And they are also forbidden from spreading manure within 300 meters of the property.
You have to have done something very bad to get when people get that specific in the court order.
I wonder if this is going to be part of law school at the UNB now. If they're just like, alright, manure-related feuds. Chapter 1. The Murrays are crazy. So the Murrays...
And that's just the first manure unit.
It's a whole depressing, smelly course. The Murrays, on their part, claim that they're being unjustly accused here. Their legal defense is that the manure did not smell, that was in fact dry, which is a temporary state for anything in New Brunswick, and that the debris that was snowblown onto the property was, quote, small shovelfuls.
So they're not saying they didn't do it.
No, they fully admit that they did it. It's just that, like,
it wasn't that bad. Stop whining, guys. It was only a little bit of horse manure.
It's like a legal way of calling somebody a little bitch. No, it's the rocks they're referring to. We only snow blew a couple snowblowed.
Snowblown?
Snooblood.
Snoobed?
We only
snoobed a couple small rocks. It was
onto
fine,
your property.
guys.
It was fine.
Don't be a baby.
It's the legal way of calling your neighbor a little bitch.
Yeah, like, it was only, like, some dry horse manure. You can't handle dry horse manure. I eat dry horse manure for breakfast.
Which is, again, why you couldn't live on your own till you were 24.
I lived on my own when I was 22.
That's because your family doesn't love you and they want you to die of horse manure poisoning.
That's probably correct. They do love me. They've given up on my horse manure related ways.
That's fantastic. That's great. Yeah, so that covers petty family feuds of the Maritimes. There is actually another feud that I wanted to cover, which is a long-standing feud in Nova Scotia between the Melvin family and the Marriott family, which is like the Hatfield-McCoy of Canada. But it turns out that story is so fucking ridiculous, it has to be an episode unto itself.
Absolutely.
I was sending Jessica snippets until 1 a.m. last night, and
it's good. It's good.
It's really good. So that's gonna be saved for another day.
I don't know what it says about me, but I feel really bad for the gallants. And, like, I should feel bad for, like, the dude who was dragged through the Atlantic Ocean by his pants after being shot. But, like, that just makes me feel sad. Like,
this is where we get pity.
I can't relate.
But you can relate to being inundated, like a deluge of horse manure just strikes a chord with you.
Everybody's had a shitty neighbor. Usually not that literally.
But literally, I was gonna say, literally, my neighbor was sort of, I mean, the people who live above me, I think, juggle bowling balls between the hours of 8 and 4 in the morning every single night, but I can't be arsed to take the elevator upstairs and confront them. I'm not even gonna leave a note. Like, I'm just gonna live with my bowling ball ceiling until I move out.
You just push the feelings down.
No, you just push it down and you compress it until you drink yourself to death.
And it doesn't hurt anymore.
It doesn't hurt anymore. I mean, I couldn't get 4 metric tons of shit up the elevator, but...
See, that's what Vuotso should have done. He should have just...
Horse shit?
No, Vuotso. He should have just,
no, I know.
pushed it all down.
I thought you mean he should have dumped a mountain of horse shit on the lawn.
That would have been better.
That would have been better.
I mean,
That's
he
true.
did murder 2 people.
I think if we learned anything this week, it's that you should solve all of your problems, no matter how serious or how petty, with several metric tons of animal waste.
And a court order from the Court of New Brunswick.
From the New Brunswick Farm Practices Review Board.
I think all disputes, large or small, should be settled by the New Brunswick Farm Review Board. Farm Practices Review Board.
All right, well,
I trust them.
I trust them too. I think we've learned all that we can learn this week. Thanks for, if you got this far, thanks for listening to Fat, French, and Fabulous.
Fabu.
Fabu? Is that the French word for fabulous?
No.
No, I didn't think so. That sounds like something you made up.
The alliteration does not exist in
What is it in French?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Gros.
Grosse.
Français
et chic? I don't know.
It's fantastic.
Chouette.
Fantastique? I don't know.
C'est vachement chouette.
That's worse.
Vachement chouette literally means cowly owl, but it translates as very cool.
This is why I stopped taking French.
Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
It doesn't. None of you make sense. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. We are probably recording this like months before it'll be released, but
yes,
we look forward to next week.
I mean, just open it, just like peel it open and just like waft fresh horse shit.
That's enough out of you, Jessica. That's enough. So this has been Janelle
and Jessica,
and we are Fat, French, and fabulous. Thank you so much for listening to Fat, French, and Fabulous. If you like us, if you want to hear more of us, please rate and subscribe on whatever services we manage to get on. You can follow us on Facebook or Twitter at Fat, French, and Fabulous, and if you want to follow us individually, you can follow us at our dumb Twitter names. I am at Very Bad Llama, and Jessica is at I Am Not a Lungfish. Thanks for getting to this point in the podcast. We thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you next week.